Shalom and a very warm welcome to each and every one of you to our News in Review, a biblical commentary on events that are emanating out of the Middle East and especially out of Jerusalem. Well, the news is this week we're talking about the visit of the Pope Benedict the 16th, to the Holy Land. Currently he's in Jordan and he'll be coming in shortly to visit in Jerusalem. He's coming ostensibly as a pastor, because he said publicly that this is a pastoral visit, not a political visit. Although there are many issues, and I'm going to share a few of them with you today, of some of the things that the Pope will have to address while he's here. Now, this visit is the second visit of a Pope to the area. Pope John the Second, Pope John Paul II, came in the year 2000, and he was quite especially well received by the Jewish people here because, if you recall, he had been a bishop in Krakow in Poland during the Second World War, and he was involved actually in helping to save Jewish people and to promise that Jewish children would not be baptized who had been exposed to the horrific Holocaust. And he actually carried people on his shoulders to bring them to safety, and so he was very, very loved. Now, Pope Benedict the 16th is facing some difficulties because he has been said that he was actually a member of Hitler's youth, because he's of German origin. As you know, he was born in Germany. And so it's going to be a very interesting visit, and to see how it actually works out in reality on the ground. Rabbi Lau has said we are not going to rebuff the Pope's visit, but we're not going to bend over backwards either because of some of these issues in his background. Now, today Christians are especially uneasy about the Pope's visit, as they expect him to address their concerns. The Pope says, as I said, it's a pastoral visit, not a political one, but the dwindling numbers of Palestinian Christians here in this area is of major concern, because the dwindling numbers mean that their influence is going down continually. I'll give you some examples. Till 1948, the Christian population among the Arabs of this area was 20%. Today, with just 50,000 Christians in Bethlehem, Beit Sahur, Beit Jala, and these areas, the numbers have dwindled down, and now they represent only 10% of the population, or 2.3% of the entire Arab population of this area. There are 15 denominations in this area, Christian denominations. The largest is the Greek Orthodox Church. They represent 51% of the Christians on the ground here, and the Roman Catholic Church represents 32% of the Christians. Now, 56% of Palestinian Christians actually live outside of the Middle East, and together they represent 400,000 people. They're Christian Arabs, Christian Palestinians. Together, as I mentioned, they represent 400,000, which is 6.5% of the world's population of Palestinians, which is 9 million, and they're spread out all over the world. In the year, leading up to these years, there's been a growth rate of some 2.3%, as I said. Now that growth rate has fallen till it's 1% per annum growth rate, and by the year 2020 this means it could fall down to 0 growth rate. And so the numbers of Palestinian Christians is dwindling. Many of them are voting with their feet because of the difficult situation here in this area. Muslim persecution, difficulties in getting jobs and entering into the job market into Israel because of the terrorist bombs, and the Israelis have put a fence up, and it's just a difficult situation, and many of them have, as I said, voted with their feet and have left. Now, one of the leaders in the community, the Christian community, says here, the Roman Catholic Patriarch Fuad Taol says told the Jerusalem Report that since the establishment of the State of Israel, Christians throughout Palestine have felt increasingly powerless. Christians continue to pray, he says, for growth and increased religious, social, and political power, and we believe in the power of prayer, he continues, but we are hopeful regarding the new U.S. administration that things will be turned around, and especially now with the Pope's visit to help us, have some power in this matter. Now, what are some of the questions that Pope Benedict will have to deal with in this matter of Christian power in this area, Christian influence? One of them is the sovereignty over holy sites. There's been a request that Christian holy sites should be controlled by the Vatican. Dinah Kraft in Tel Aviv said that the sovereignty of Christian holy sites in Israel could be handed over to the Vatican under plans drawn up by President Shimon Peres. And those included in the report are the Church of the Annunciation in Nazareth, the Cenaculum, which is on Mount Zion, where the traditional Last Supper was held, along with Gethsemane. Those of you that visited here, Gethsemane is the International Church of the Nations at the bottom of Mount of Olives there, where Jesus prayed, of course, if this cup be possible, let it pass from me. And then Mount Tabor, the traditional site of the Transfiguration, and finally the Church of the Multiplication on the banks of the Sea of Galilee. So for the past 12 years, the government of Israel and the Vatican have been deadlocked in discussions over the status of these holy sites. But it's said that President Peres is pressing that the issue be settled before the Pope Benedict's visit here in another day. But the Interior Ministry has refused to concede to these pressures from the President's office, and Eli Ishai, the Director of the Ministry of Interior, has said that there won't be any concessions given over quickly like this, because it simply limits the Israeli government's ability to function as a sovereign government when these areas are given over to the Catholic Church. Now, the situation is not easy. The Pope comes in and he's to be Mr. Fix-It. He's to fix all the problems of the area. And as you and I know, the reality on the ground is that no one will be able to fix it. No one will be able to bring peace here. No one will be able to placate everyone's desires and needs until the Messiah comes. And that's basically, I think, really the bottom line of this whole situation in the Middle East here. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 9, verse 6 and 7, it says that the government will be upon his shoulders, the government of peace. And it says, of this government of peace, there shall be no end. And that's talking, of course, about the Messiah. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude this brief overlook at the issues that are facing Pope Benedict XVI when he comes here these days to visit, we must always remember that ultimately the final solution for the peace and the peace process here in the Middle East will be on the shoulders of our precious Messiah. Well, thank you very much for being with me today. And this is Jay Rawlings reporting to you from Mevaseret Zion, announcing good news from Zion, giving a biblical perspective on some of the events that are happening here in the holy city of Jerusalem. Until next time, I'm just saying all the best to each and every one of you, and shalom from Jerusalem.